Today, we're going to paint a impressionist style spring sunset of the Baltimore Inner Harbor. Before we get started, make sure you have a water cup, a paper plate in case you want to mix some colors, your canvas, your paints all opened up for easy access. I have with me a detail brush and a wider brush I'll use for bigger areas, bigger swaths. I also have a couple of paper towels in case I spill or need to clean my paintbrush. So to paint like an impressionist, you want to paint quickly and an image that is imbued by the light and the moment and the sensation of being there. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of red on my paintbrush, and I'm going to quickly just paint my horizon line. Okay, so since this is a harbor sunset, it's going to be like a mirror image, right? Everything that I see at the top, I'm also going to see on the bottom because the sky is going to be reflected into the water. So I'm just going to quickly get started. I'm going to put a little bit of, if I'm finished with one brush, I can put it in my water. I'm going to get my wider brush and I'm going to dip a little bit of red, a little bit of pink, and I'm going to just start working across my horizon line, making my water. I'm going to leave this area over here for my domino sugar plant. So I want to kind of start over filling up this area. I'm also going to make it so that the brightest hues are at the horizon line. Just a little bit of red and a little bit of pink as I fill up my canvas. When I move my brush like that, that wavy sensation gives the appearance of waves, right? I don't want to move up and down because that's not how waves move across the sea. Above, I'm going to get a little bit of pink and a little bit of red, and I'm also going to mix in a little bit of white so that my sky is a little bit lighter in color, but still has that kind of bright pink sensation. I want to work while my brush and my paint is still wet so that it kind of moves around just like water would, right? So I'll get a little yellow and mix it in. And you'll see when you mix yellow with the red and with the pink, it creates kind of an orangey color. Now I can even add some orange. Impressionist painters always use really bright colors to kind of make their images pop. I'm gonna keep going. Filling up my whole canvas. The water, maybe I want to add a little bit more red. Remember, whatever areas of color I have down here, I'm going to then mirror them up at the top. So I'm just filling up my sea. Bright paint, dry brushing a little bit, right? Letting my paintbrush go all the way, get all the way dry before I dip more. That'll also make it dry a little bit faster and make it a little bit easier for me to go back and add some more colors over here. I'm gonna dip, I wanna add a little bit of blue. Oh no, my blue's getting a little muddy. So if I want, I can clean my paintbrush off in my water, dry it, right? Make sure it's nice and clean and dry before going back. Now I'll get some more blue. My domino sugar plant is gonna be like reflected right here. And even if you can still see some of the white popping through, that's okay, because it kind of gives the illusion of like a wave, right? The way that ocean moves. Dry my brush. Maybe I do want to add a couple little hits of white down here. Pastel it out. Drag out my different lines of color. I notice over here my line started to get a little bit curvy, so I'm just going to go back, make them straighter. There we go. I've got my ocean painted. So I can add more detail later. For now, I'm going to go up and paint the sky. So I clean my brush off, and I'm going to mix a little bit of red, a little bit of pink, and a little bit of white. I'm gonna mix that all together, have that nice pinky color. So when I was painting this, I was looking at a picture of domino sugar at sunset, and this was really the color of the sky. So I'm just gonna work that in. Like I said, this is gonna be this area over here. I'm gonna paint back over. I'm gonna paint the sign over there. So I don't need to worry about filling up that whole area. I'm gonna add some white, yellow in here. Just like that. Some more yellow. We'll mix the yellow and some white. With the sky, if you want, you can also choose to leave some areas of the sky white for the clouds. Clouds are always whitest at the top and darkest at the bottom. We can go back over our sky when we finish and add some pops. And I want to try to think about my reflection, right? So if this is an area where it was mostly white before, mostly yellow before, I want to go back in with yellow, right? So I see that this over here, I have blue. Oops, I made a mistake. I'm gonna go ahead, clean and brush. Make sure my canvas is so that you can see it. Make it nice and clean, and then I'll get some blue. And I can kind of work this blue in up here. Maybe even want like a hit of purple. Give it that hazy sunset sky. Mix that purpley blue in with this pink and work it all together. And just like that. It looks like now to make kind of my mirror image, I'm gonna go back over down here at the bottom with some more purple. And you can choose, right? Like yours does not need to look like mine. You can make your own shadowing and light. All right, I'm gonna go back a little bit more. I'm gonna make like a sherbety orange, mixing some yellow. Sorry, some orange and some white. Go back up here and just kind of fill that in a little bit. Okay. So, I've got my base background painted. What I want to do next is I'm going to block out my domino sugar plant. What's pretty neat about most of the pictures you'll see of the domino sugar plant at sunset is that there's smoke coming out of it. So if doesn't come out perfect, don't worry. You can always put some smoke on top. So I want to start, and got some black on my brush. And I'm just gonna basically trace, make it like stairs going up. And a nice big rectangle across, just like that. This black is pretty opaque and has a green haziness to it almost. That's okay. Get some more back on my brush. And then you can go back if you want and use the other side of your brush to pull some lines and give some texture to your building, kind of like giving it windows. I'm gonna clean off this brush, dry it. I'm gonna grab my detail brush. I'm gonna use my detail brush to paint the smokestacks coming out. Just a straight line up. And then I'm gonna make this smokestack on top of a rectangle. So I'm just gonna make a little rectangle. I always, when I'm using my detail brush, want to rest my hand on the table so I can steady my hand while I'm working to make sure that my lines stay the way that I want them. Draw another, give it a couple more extra rectangles. Now it's time for me to make my little sign. So we know that in art and in life, because of the atmosphere, things that are further away appear smaller and blurrier. So I'm gonna try my best with the sign, but if it's kind of blurry, don't worry. So I got some red. I'm gonna trace out kind of like a rectangle. And then I'm going to clean my brush. I'm gonna pull it to a tip. Carefully, I'm gonna write in the sky. Just try to make it, if you want, add some detail to your sign. It's okay if it looks hazy because that's how it looks in real life, right? So now I'm gonna go back and add some more depth to my building. Now, because my building is, oops, you can't see my paint. Because my building, it's a reflection, right? You're gonna be able to see my building in the water. So I'm gonna clean my paintbrush. I got my big brush back, and I almost want it to be a little bit wet, so it'll let the paint kind of move around. And I'm just gonna echo my lines. And because I'm working with the wet paint, it's gonna keep it transparent, right? So you can see through to the water beneath. And I kind of want to mirror that building. Those steps I made on the building, I'll make them onto the water below. Here's my smokestack. I'm gonna add a little water. And there's my smokestack. There's my other smokestack. Then I'll add a little bit of red over here for the sign. And there's my reflection of my domino sugar plant. Now on the other side of the harbor from the domino sugar plant, you can see some cranes. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Just paint some rectangles with my little brush. Starting on my horizon line, they're gonna get smaller as they fade away. I'm improvising a little bit with what the harbor looks like, but it's part of being an artist, right? You get to make it look the way that you want it to look. Doesn't have to look exactly like real life. The Impressionist painters were all about kind of expressing themselves through line and color and creating a kind of fleeting sense of time and moment. So I'm gonna let these cranes kind of fade into the background. One rectangle, make another rectangle a little bit bigger. This one is going to be the biggest. And then the cranes kind of like pop out, right? If too much paint on my brush, that's okay. I can clean it, or I can spin it on my paper plate. Just diagonal line, diagonal line. Just doing it quickly. Not too concerned about it being perfect. And then over here, there's one more. It's kind of like a triangle. And then I'm gonna kind of haze that out in the middle. I don't really. If I wanna go back and define my line, right? I can use my brush. I'm just gonna turn this so that I can get my line the way that I want it. Like that. And now to a point. And then we'll do the same thing we did with the other side, creating a shadow. All right? Line it up. So same thing, a little bit of water. I'm using my detail brush because this is smaller and I think it'll be easier for me to do it with my detail brush. So I'm just going back and forth, back and forth. And the thing about a reflection is it's not like a perfect mirror image, right? It's just kind of like a reminder of what's there. So it does not need to look perfect. You can just keep filling it up. And then there's the cranes. And then sometimes these mirrors hurt me. Just like that. Now, if you want, you can always go back here and add more detail. Maybe you want to add a little pop of white somewhere. I'm going to try to define my horizon a little bit more just by adding a hit of white. Right there to separate. And then I'll go back over it with my red. So when you're finished, you remember artists always sign their work. So I'll write my name, Miss Moore. And there you have it. Baltimore, springtime sunset.